CiviGem is the trusted online platform community for diamond-coloured stone and jewellery professionals worldwide. We help members to discover new business opportunities, collaborate and share expertise and education, all while preserving the industry's heritage of craftsmanship and value creation. So welcome to the second episode of the CiviGem Podcast with me, David Troostwyk, and my very special guest today, Olivia Landau from the Clear Cut here in New York City. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So I was keen to speak to you today, mainly because I think you've got quite an inspiring diamond story, journey. And on CiviGem, we have quite a few young professionals that have come out of GIA and are looking to see how to sort of get into the industry and what that sort of career sort of path looks like. And I think your story's interesting and definitely inspiring. So I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit, hear about how it came about. Clear Cut, I understand it wasn't necessarily product-led, it was more maybe educational. So I just wanted to maybe get an understanding of how you started and where we are today.
Totally. And it's so funny because when I graduated from GIA in 2013, I asked my teacher at the time, and I was like, so after this, what can I do as a career? And he was like, I don't know, you can either work in retail or work in wholesale or become a bench jeweler. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't really know which path to go on. My family was in the diamond industry. My dad's from Antwerp, so for a few generations, they were diamond cutters and dealers. And then my mom and my dad just had a business together selling antique jewelry. So it was like just the two of them, and then they got divorced. So there wasn't like really a business for me to get into necessarily, but that's how I found out about the industry and about GIA because I grew up kind of around it.
Was that retail? Antique?
To privates,
right,
to only private clients. So it was a very small business, but that's how I got exposed to the jewelry world and kind of knew all the terms and the ins and outs of it, and went to 47th Street, things like that. So after graduating from NYU, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to GIA, found out about it through my parents to kind of extend schooling a little bit and have more time to figure things out. And while I was there, I ended up really falling in love with diamonds and gemstones.
Okay. It's in the blood.
It's in the blood. I also, while I was there, met my now husband and co-founder serendipitously. So
wow, there you go. That's probably a good thing for GIA to
promote. We're like a GIA love story. Unintentionally. So after graduating, I started part-time working at Tiffany on the engagement floor here in New York City in the flagship store, like as a holiday person that transitioned to a full-time role. And I really loved bridal jewelry. I loved engagement rings, diamonds specifically, but I wanted to get like a little bit more hands-on.
Right.
And I knew like kind of traditional retail just wasn't it for me. So I did the complete opposite and went to the Diamond District and worked in wholesale.
Just to get exposure?
Just to understand the different parts of the industry, to know where I could fit in and like what part I would thrive in.
Yeah.
At that same time, my now husband, Kyle, he had been working in West Africa.
Okay. In diamonds?
In diamonds, in mining. And it was the Ebola epidemic that hit. So he had to come back to New York, and he went to business school at Columbia. And at that time, I was working in wholesale, and all of his friends and classmates at Columbia were getting engaged, and they knew he had some sort of background in it. And they said, oh, do you know a guy that can get me a good deal on an engagement ring? So he sent everyone to me, and I was like the go-to person for his whole class. I helped everyone pick out their diamonds, educate them on the 4 C's, and then create their custom rings. So it was like a fun thing I was doing on the side. And I realized—
This was whilst you were working for a wholesaler?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this was in 2016, and I realized that most people didn't know the first thing about buying a diamond. So I decided to start a blog called The Clear Cut, and I basically told everyone to go read my blog and then come to work with me, so I didn't have to, say
explain
a million things again.
Over again.
Yeah. Then I started posting some of the designs on Instagram, and random people started following the account. People DM'd me asking if I could make their engagement rings. So it kind of turned into this like accidental like side business.
Right.
And after...
Was this quite good for the... I mean, were you working for a wholesaler selling diamonds, or working within the sort of...
I was working within, I was doing production.
Okay.
But yes, I was like selling the diamonds. So I was creating a lot of extra revenue and clients.
Good for you. Amazing.
But then I realized that... and then I went and worked at a different company after that, but was still doing this on the side. So I, after a year and a half of doing that, my husband was like, oh, we weren't married at the time. We were just dating. He was like, oh, you have a business on your hands. Like before and after work, I was, selling diamonds. I had done like over $1 million in sales just kind of on the side. And he's like, I think there's like a white space in the market that you're filling and we should go into business together. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know about that. I'm not like an entrepreneur. This is just like a fun thing I do on the side. I don't really think this is like sustainable, and like we're not even married or engaged, so like I don't know.
How did that feel about, well, okay, let's get there. So from there you then go on with your story, and
I said I was like, we're not both quitting our jobs right now, so I was like, if we get some funding, get into this like accelerator, then I'll quit my job. But I was like, we're never going to get in. So it's like totally.
And what was the thought process in terms of like working together and being in a relationship together? I was always extremely against it,
especially because it didn't work out for my parents. And I was always told like never like work with your significant other.
Right.
But we have really complementary skill sets, and I like really trusted his like opinions on things. So I didn't want to, but it kind of just happened.
Yeah.
We got into this tech accelerator in 2018 called Techstars, and they gave us like that initial seed funding.
Yeah. So what is Techstars? I've heard about it a little bit.
It's a tech accelerator. Normally they take real pre-seed like startup companies and go through like an intensive like 3-month like period. They'll give you like an initial $120K seed funding for a percentage of your company, and then they'll kind of coach you into like how to start up your startup.
Amazing.
And put you connections with like other investors,
so
like mentors.
So was that something you had to apply for, and there were lots of other people in,
Yeah, so we found out about it through Columbia Business School because they had like a startup ecosystem there. We applied. It was super competitive. We were the only consumer business in our cohort. They were all like software companies, B2B SaaS companies. So it was like super out of place, but I think they thought we were interesting because we had a lot of revenue and a lot of like online social media traction, which was kind of like cool in the early days.
Yeah.
So we got in surprisingly. I really didn't think it would happen. And because I said, if we get in, I'll quit my job. I was like, what?
To it.
I did. And I was like, what's the worst? I'll regret not trying it. And what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll just like get another job.
Yeah.
So we did it. And this was January 2018. And that's when we started doing like the clear cut full time, like committing our focus to this custom diamond engagement ring experience that is done like fully remotely. The next year we launched our fine jewelry collection.
What does that mean, fully remotely?
Like we didn't have like a physical space. Like,
so how would you meet clients and like show diamonds?
Social media.
Oh, really? What, you'd literally show diamonds over video?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first year and 2 years was extreme. We did everything very unscalably. So like through emails, text messages, Instagram DMs, but I always knew like I wanted to build a platform, like a software for it.
Right.
And that was always my vision. And so like by doing it really painfully, I understood the process and all the things we needed to build. So in 2020, that's when we started building our GEM platform, which is like it's a 2-end platform, like back end for like inventory management, managing our vendors, our production, but also front facing for our clients, to kind of democratize like that private jewelry experience of sitting across the table from an expert, but being able to do that anywhere.
Right. Okay. So this is something that you've built yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like a off the shelf.
No.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's quite an investment, I imagine. How long did it take to build the platform?
So we started, we're always still building it.
Right, okay.
And always making tweaks to it and adding features. But we started building it in 2020, right before the pandemic, which worked out really well for us because
something to do whilst...
when no one could go into brick and mortar retail, they had to turn somewhere else. And if you wanted a similar experience or a very curated experience, you kind of had nowhere else to go.
So what is the experience on your platform like?
So basically, if you want a custom diamond engagement ring, we want you to schedule a phone call with one of our gemologists. Everyone that works for us is a GIA graduate gemologist.
Okay.
And so we just get that personal connection right off the bat to understand your preferences, what you're looking for, answer any questions. Then we set you up in our gem portal. You get your own personal profile where you have direct line of communication to your gemologist at any time. You could chat through. We, on our end, will handpick a selection of loose diamonds specifically for each client's preferences that align.
Right.
You'll see photos and videos come through in your portal. We ask for feedback on every single diamond. And then it's very collaborative. We work to narrow down until we find that perfect diamond for you. Select it, pay a deposit, then we go into a custom design flow to create a custom ring for that diamond.
Right.
Once that's completed,
how do you design diamond? How do you work with your client to design a diamond ring?
So the design process is super personal and subjective. We have our most popular signature styles, but everything is made to order. So a lot of times we'll work with like inspiration images. We'll provide CAD renderings with your actual, center stone in it. And then once that design is approved, then put it into production and everything is made here in New York.
Excellent. Wow.
Yeah.
So are there occasions, or maybe it's always like that, you never actually meet the client in person?
So we do have a showroom in New York City, and maybe about 15 to 20% of our clients will come in person. A lot of people will fly in to see.
Right.
But about 85% of our clients do everything fully remotely through our GEM platform. And this past year, we launched Eunice, which is our AI tool that we built on top of our GEM platform to interpret all of the data that we've had over the past 8 years.
And what does that mean? So you interpret the data to help you...
So basically how it first started was we saw a lot of discrepancy in the types of diamonds that were being manufactured and the types of diamonds that our customers were asking for. So there's oversupply in some areas and really drastic undersupply in others. So we first built Eunice to understand what kind of diamonds were selling, how quickly were they selling, what were the proportions, the quality combinations, all of that, so we could tell the manufacturers, hey, can you cut more diamonds like this for us in these qualities and these sizes? And then once we launched that, we just realized the way we had organized all of the information over the past 6 years since having GEM, we had every single message and conversation with every gemologist and client. We made every diamond have feedback from the client to understand. So we really were able to get a wealth of knowledge on not only how to understand which clients are moving forward or which ones were like hotter leads, what types of diamonds would sell quicker, were they priced correctly based on what was selling, how to order them in terms of offering them to clients, how to train our gemologists based on like previous conversations. Just so like tons and tons of information that we're still building on.
Really interesting. So you started off by doing an educational blog.
Yes.
How did you find the sort of feedback? Obviously, it was very popular. Lots of people got in touch with you, direct messages, and so forth. Did you find that people were more receptive once they were educated in certain aspects, or was it more design-led? Was it more product-led? Were people just sending you images of things that they liked and asking you about it, or was it more about trust or the quality or the craftsmanship of things? What was the feedback that you were getting from people?
For us, it's always been about like diamond education and transparency. So we started as a blog, but we've kind of met the client, where they've been throughout this journey. So first it was a blog, then it was, mainly like, social media images, but now it's very much like organic video educational content through like TikTok and Instagram. And I think it's just a shift in the perception of the industry, because historically it's like an opaque industry, or it has that reputation, and there's a lot of withholding of information to the client in order to like make more margin, or like, my dad would always say, don't tell everyone all of the secrets because you're never going to make any money. But I think that was just like the change. We came out like super transparent without any, transaction. If people wanted to purchase from us, we had built that trust from them. But if they didn't and they wanted to just take the information we were providing them, they could make an empowered purchase anywhere that they wanted to go.
Interesting. So you did all of that, and from my understanding, you also went to visit a mine at some point in Botswana.
So we've been to Botswana a few times.
How did that come about? Obviously, your husband now was he in mining?
He was in mining. He was in mining in Sierra Leone. During that Ebola time, but it never like fully came to fruition because it got cut short. But it's so random how we ended up in Botswana. So we were named Forbes 30 under 30 in 2020.
Yeah. I'd love to hear a bit about that as well and how that came about.
Yeah. And so there's usually like a big trip or something that they have for like people that made the list. But obviously it was 2020, so we didn't go anywhere. But in 2022, they're like, okay, the trip, like we're back on and like we're going to Botswana. So we're doing this big summit for the Forbes 30 under 30 in Botswana.
Did it just happen that it was just a coincidence?
It was a coincidence.
Wow. Okay.
And we saw that one of the sponsors was De Beers. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then Kyle was like, yeah, that's where, most of the diamonds come from. And like, that's where De Beers is headquartered. Like, when we're there, maybe we should like get connected to be able to like see some of the industry. So while we were there, we got connected to some De Beers Botswana folk through like the NDC, I believe. Yeah. And we got to go to the DTC and get to see all of that. And it was really just so incredible to see that firsthand, especially being in the industry, but never getting to see that part of it.
Yeah.
And it was really eye-opening too to see, the discrepancy between what the U.S. consumer thinks about African countries that mine diamonds and what the reality was for like locals and how they perceived the natural diamond industry and how positive it was and the direct impacts it had on, the education, the healthcare. So I was like, this is an amazing story that isn't told, and we need to document this and like tell this story.
Funny because we're both part of the Young Diamantaire group, and early on, I think it was 2019, was it 2019? Yeah, I think it was 2019. 25 of us got the opportunity to go to the Venetian mine in South Africa, and I had a very similar type of experience to what you're describing, in that we went to go and visit the Venetian mine and we had a tour around it, and although I'd been in the industry for sort of 20 years or so, I'd never visited a mine before, and my preconceptions were very sort of outdated, and I thought of mining in the same way I think most people think of mining. And what I saw when I was there was responsible mining and what modern mining is today, and that is, looking after the environment and the world around, the mine itself. And we went to go and visit different sort of communities and schools. And we did a project recently where we delivered a science lab for the school that we visited whilst we were there. But the way in which all different things took place in the mine, women were working in every different types of job, and, the safety of everyone involved there, the foresight, what they planned on doing going forward, and the impact that it had on everyone was really sort of eye-opening and really impactful. And I remember being there saying, why don't you tell people
I
this?
know.
Like, why don't you tell these stories? These are amazing stories and people should know this. So obviously you had that experience and you thought similar.
Yeah, and we went back a few times. We went to the Orapa mine, documented the whole trip, obviously went on safari in the Delta, so it was just something I became like really passionate about, that storytelling, because I feel like it was something lacking in marketing and something lacking behind, especially this was during the rise of like when lab grown marketing was happening, saying it was like ethical, sustainable, and there was a lot of degradation to like natural diamonds, saying that they were all blood diamonds when in fact like they're not. And so I wanted to show like firsthand like the real truth behind it.
And did you feel a lot of pushback from you trying to vocalize what you saw and the the good that natural diamonds are doing, and also the sort of lab grown story, that they're trying to push the agenda to sort of create their own market, their own space within the jewelry space?
I think it's so funny because natural diamond industry is always saying like, oh, like let's take the high road. You never want to like talk down to the lab grown. We always just want to say like good things about natural, whereas like the other side does the complete opposite and tries to tear down natural at any given cost. So it's kind of like we're just defending ourselves.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think you're right. What's interesting though is that you went and you were able to see exactly what was going on there and the positive impact that it has. How does that translate when you're actually talking to a customer about it?
I think it's really well received because I think people are interested and they don't get to hear this side of it, and they find it fascinating and eye-opening. So I think it's a great story to tell. And I think it's really funny because I think the industry is actually like way ahead of the consumer. Like people don't know that you can like trace on the blockchain most diamonds, or that they're so strict in like the way they're extracted and like the positive impacts and how they think of conservation long term. We're way ahead of where the consumer is, because everyone's saying like the consumer never asks about like origin, or the consumer never asks about this, because we're so ahead. We don't even like tell the consumer what's going on or what we're doing or that they should care about it. So I feel like it's like a pretty interesting tension.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got so many different questions based on that, but I think if we just kind of focus on your journey a little bit. I mean, I remember seeing a lot of you on social media talking about natural diamonds, promoting natural diamonds, and like really being there for the trade. Whereas exactly what you said, a lot of us were, just digging our heads in the sand a little bit and just expecting it all to sort of go away and not rising to the bait maybe. But you've had to kind of fight against the grain a little bit to get to where you've got to. What's it like working in an industry which is traditionally sort of male-led, and as champion natural diamonds, you've obviously, these are the challenges that you've come across. What are those challenges like, and what is the sort of response of you championing natural diamonds up against those that are really trying to push a synthetic lab-grown agenda?
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of like two questions. I think in terms of me taking like a hard stand and like a focus on like championing natural diamonds, it's easy to kind of go with the flow and do what everyone's doing and like take advantage of the moment. It's way harder to go against the grain and take like a bold stance for something I just felt like really passionate about and really believed in. And I was like, I thought, much bigger people had much more at stake that would kind of join me.
Yes, you would have thought so.
Yeah, I would have thought so. But, if I'm fourth generation in this industry, and I really value like heritage, legacy, what natural diamonds like stand for, what they do, and saw how important they are for so many people that rely on them, that, I said, this is the hill I'm willing to die on, and like, we'll see how it goes. And I want to ensure there's like a next generation for this industry. So, but if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you, and no one would know who I am, and I'd just be like any other, small private jeweler.
Absolutely. And you created a niche there for yourself because, people, and even I think today, they respect your opinion on these things. They want to hear what you have to say. And I think that's to your credit. So what were the lab grown sort of industry's response to some of the stuff that you were doing?
The lab grown industry hates me, but it's okay if everyone loves you, you're not doing something right.
No, good. All right.
At first it's like, kind of hard to see like grown men in like your TikTok comments, like making really personal attacks. But I'm like, that's like their problem, not mine.
Absolutely.
But going back to like the being a young woman in like a predominantly, male industry, I think, it presents like a lot of opportunity. Obviously, it's like tough to break into. And I really credit like those first men that gave me my shot and took a chance on me and like really, sold me my first diamonds, helped me make my first pieces of jewelry. Like they're still like my mentors to this day. And I think when I first started, it was very novel to be a young woman in the diamond industry and like, on social media, but now it's kind of table stakes. And I think, I'm really proud of being able to open doors for lots of other women that maybe didn't think this was an industry that would be welcoming to them or have access. And I think it's changed the perception of a lot of legacy men in the industry to be more open to working with newer people or people from outside the industry or like young women with different perspectives.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I see that a lot. And it must have been difficult. But I think also, I think wherever you are, these mentors are super important. And I just know from, young people on CiviGem now who are reaching out and asking for help and guidance and those type of things. It's beneficial for us all to encourage people to come into the industry because there are definitely opportunities, but there's also a lot of missed opportunities and a lot of craftsmanship that apprenticeships people get passed down, skills that difficult to find and learn today. And I think that is a really sort of interesting part of the industry, which we need to try and do more in today. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, for me, diamond jewellery is always sort of aesthetic. So you look at the jewellery and you would kind of fall in love with the piece, or you look at lots of different options. Obviously, when you're making a bespoke piece of jewellery for someone, you're not necessarily showing them the finished article, until it's finished and it's delivered. So how does that kind of work? Like, how does it work when you're showing different options to someone and, they're in two minds about it? And is it more of the theoretical side of it all where, okay, well, this is a round diamond, this is a fancy shaped diamond, this is cushion or pear shape, and you've got to show pictures? Or how do you do that? How do people like make a decision based on an aesthetic rather than, or an idea? That's kind of new.
I'm a big believer, at least for like the engagement ring, I'm a big believer in picking out your diamond and designing a ring around your diamond, not the other way around. Of course, like you can have inspiration or see like styles or aesthetics that you love, and then we can kind of like work backwards and find the diamond that fits that. But the diamond is like the investment, the centerpiece, and something you can always reset later on. So I always like really nerding out and finding the right one. And then once we have that centerpiece, how do we build a ring that will highlight it in the best way possible with the aesthetic you're going for? So of course we like do mock-ups and like renderings, things like that, but it does require like a bit of like trust and imagination.
Right, yeah, of course. And do you have different types of designers depending on what the client's after, or is it client-led?
It's client-led for sure. And everything is client-led because I feel like it's really, there are like certain designers that have their, design aesthetic that people go to for, but we're really more of that bespoke, very personal piece where like this is an engagement ring and it really has to feel like you, feel like the couple and be like led by you. And I feel like that's a just different like mindset. I don't think of myself as a jewelry designer. I think of myself as a gemologist, you know?
Yeah. Okay. That's a big difference there. So would you call yourself a disruptor in this space?
Yes, I would think so.
How do you think you're disrupting the space? Well, how does it differ to sort of traditional bridal retail?
So I think we at the Clear Cut are disruptors in a few ways. One is the way our process is built doesn't exist anywhere else. Like how we are digital first and really expert led in this private jewelry experience. There's no other place that you can have this type of private jewelry experience remotely with an expert. Also, in terms of our education, I think, like I mentioned, even early on, we were disrupting like the industry, not only with our perspectives and like our bold stances, but in the transparency and education we provided. I think a lot of people have followed suit, and this is something that is more a norm now, or more than it was. But being price transparent, being origin transparent, being transparent about everything about the stone, we just want our clients to feel extremely empowered and educated when they come and make that big purchase.
Interesting. So how do you sort of balance between education and kind of making it still a romantic type of purchase and situation, and it's not necessarily just transparency and education, and making it quite bland, not bland, but more like less romantic.
I think education is romantic. I think that, for instance, we do a lot of like unique stones, and a very popular shape is like the old European cut. And I think not many people know about antique stones. Once they learn about it, they're fascinated by when was it cut? How was it cut? No two are alike. Oh, the quality scale is actually quite different than if I was looking for a modern round. I analyze it differently. And then they become an expert in this like niche. And it's super romantic when they actually pick out their stone and they can tell the story of their diamond.
Right.
Whether that's, the background history of the type of cut, or whether it's where the diamond itself came from. I think storytelling makes your piece special, and that's
so
education.
It's like a mix between storytelling, educating your clients, having the transparency on sort of origin and price.
We want everyone to be like as excited to nerd out about their diamond and their ring, and like, even for the design, where's the hidden detail in this? Or like, what was my personal touch on this? It's a very, it's a very personal piece of jewelry, and it's supposed to become like, represents like a bigger part of your like love story, your family story, becomes an heirloom potentially in your family. So I think we just want our clients and our community to like just love diamonds as much as we do.
Pretty good. I think it's very different to what I'm used to. I work a lot with bricks and mortar jewelers. I spend a lot of time going into the jewelers and sort of giving them my knowledge and showing goods and going through their collections and advising on, the sort of different types of diamonds that they can use within their designs and those type of things. But this is so far removed from that. And it's exciting because actually it brings a different dimension to that sort of bridal journey for people. And there are some people out there that want this type of thing, and there's other people that want to do it differently.
Yeah.
But it's been really sort of interesting hearing those different sort of stories. So I'm just trying to think. I think that's all of my questions to you today. But really interesting to hear it all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And I think, I think our members on CiviGem will find it super interesting in that, you know, it's inspiring to hear of someone who does things differently and takes on a different journey and believes in themselves and is able to sort of work towards something and be successful in the way that you have. So really good to hear it.
You know, the industry and the world is changing so quickly that we can't just do things the way they've been done anymore. So why not try something different?
No, and I think you're right. And I think that there's always that balance there. And what I couldn't, until we had this conversation, really work out was how that sort of mix works, where you can educate someone to a point. You know, for me, I've always said, like, I'm doing CiviGem because I want to connect the industry, and I believe in relationships. I believe that the industry needs to connect with one another more. And I think that's where the sort of value is added. But then also there is the need for collaboration and for people to work together to build that value, to promote together and share knowledge and educate one another. And I think, you know, I'm trying to do it internally with CiviGem within the industry, and I think you're trying to, or have done it externally with sort of consumers. And my sort of worry's always been, if you go too far on the sort of transparency side of it, or if you go too far on the education side of it, are you losing out on this sort of exciting, emotional storytelling part of it all? And I think you've kind of shown that actually you can do all of it, and you know, people will buy into it all so long as you're open and sort of truthful about it.
As long as you tell the truth.
Yeah. So no, that's great. So thank you again. Really
Thank
good.
you.
And I look forward to chatting to you again soon.